Hey folks, this is Andu and I'm here to do the mod guide for my Sharp Shot. Now, most of my how-to videos are taken while I'm doing each individual step, and then I put them all together into compilations later so you can see step by step how I do each thing, how I progress from one step to the other, and complete the entire blaster. Well, in this particular case, this mod was done well before I ever started recording videos. So I'm taking it apart and reverse engineering the project I did. Now, two things I want to point out. Well, one thing actually, two different things within that thing. The dart tag line is known for having extra plastic shells on the blasters. Once you remove them, other screws tend to be hidden below them. Underneath the priming slide is a screw you have to remove, as well as one up here under the forward piece of plastic. So you need to make sure you take those out as you are going through this blaster. So I'm removing the shell on this side of the blaster, and now you have a look at the internals. Now, in a lot of ways, this looks, just like it's stock, but there's a couple of obvious things that you see immediately. First of all, here you can see I have a PVC coupler, and when I put this Raider dart holder on here, I needed some way for the dart to actually be retained in the back and to be guided into the handle in such a way that I could put it in and take it out easily. So I've got this coupler. You can see when I put the dart in, there's a ridge on the inside of the coupler that I have to push the dart into, and because this is slightly misaligned with the hole here in the dart holder, it actually pins up against the edge of the dart and holds it in there. Additionally, you can see I put in some little straws. This looks, so awful, but I put those in there so that I could, make sure the dart doesn't get stuck on the lip here by hitting the side. Here I have a bolt with some nuts on it that's held in with hot glue, as well as a lot of stainless steel BBs. Now, if you look at the other side of the shell, I filled in just lots of space in the handle with the steel BBs, and that has held, that gives it a real nice weight to the handle. Also, you can notice up here, I greased the running rails for the plunger tube very heavily. Moving back over here, alright, so that's the handle. I'll also talk to you about the dart holder. I cut a hole exactly the right shape for this dart holder, and then I only attached it on one side, and then the other side has rubber cement just applied and then left to dry, so that since rubber cement's kind of squishy, it creates kind of a pressure hold against this part of the dart holder when the two shell halves go together. Moving on up, here you can see the trigger. This is how the catch works, like that. The trigger I haven't touched, but the catch, as I mentioned before, I added an additional catch spring. Now, it already has a very strong catch spring, but you know me, I don't leave things to chance. I back everything up with redundancies. And there you go. So there's a doubled up catch spring. I didn't grease that up, but I probably should. Now the dart holder. You can see in this wall that I dremeled holes. And those are there to allow the darts to pass through the wall that was at the back, through the wall that holds, the retaining wall at the back of the dart holder. Let's put it that way. However, the darts could fall through. You'll notice this isn't a stock piece. This is a wedge that I made out of electrical tape, packing foam, a sheet of packing foam along with 2 sheets of craft foam sandwiched together, wrapped it in electrical tape, and I put a little ring of electrical tape in there. I'll take this out. That just kind of holds it in place a little bit, as well as pressure, friction, because this is a little wider side to side than the blaster itself, so it gets squished down, and that holds it in place. Without it, you can see what would happen to these streamline darts. They just fall in there, and then you can't get to them. So I will remove the dart holder now, and I'll also show you one other problem as I go along. Because of these holes that allow the darts to go through, if I try to pull the dart holder out, it gets hung up on the dart. So I have to pull the dart forward, and admittedly I should probably just go and chop this off, and that'll solve that problem. With the other half of the shell, the one that comes off right here, I have damaged 2 darts. One was in here, darts in the dart holder, while I was taking it apart, and so it would catch. And then another when I put the blaster together with the dart in the holder, and it got crushed as I tried to put this half onto the other one, and the dart got crushed at the back. So I should really just start assembling and disassembling this blaster without the darts in. Next thing you'll see, this is a very powerful spring from Orange ModWorks. 6 kilograms of force in this little blaster. And so when this is assembled, all that force, when the spring is compressed, goes into, let's see here, down this little plastic wall right here. So I built something here to hold that wall in place, to reinforce it. Now I'm going to have to put, because I'm not able with the software I use to overlap images with my own voice, I'm probably going to pause periodically throughout this video to put pictures up to show you just what this looks like, because my camera doesn't record well close up during video mode. And additionally, just to help my audience, I made some illustrations here. This is how that reinforcement looks. You can picture the wall being on the other side. And you can see with this design, which are made out of very precisely cut pieces of plexiglass or polycarbonate, I honestly don't know which, I am distributing the force of the spring onto the shell. So over here, I've got a little bit of a better drawing. Here we've got the plunger and the main spring. We've got the catch spring, and this thin little retaining wall that's plastic. It's part of the shell, but it's not all that strong. So you can see the shell has an odd shape here. So there's this gap that I filled in with some sort of rubber cement. So that's the filler. Then I laid this piece of plexiglass down, used super glue to hold it down as well. Put this other piece of plexiglass up against the wall, and then I put this triangle in here to redistribute the force and just reinforce the whole thing, all held together with super glue. And this is held up very well. I have very little doubt as to the durability of this design. And it's a simple little mod, but one that I have found incredibly important for having such a strong spring. I have also considered just overlaying this whole thing with some epoxy putty. But when I look at this, I'm really not too worried. I think it's holding up pretty well. I could be wrong. Still, I may go back in and touch this up a little bit later, but this is really the heart of this whole blaster. This is the most important thing, because once you have something like a retaining wall break, it's very hard to fix it and reinforce it. It'll never have the strength it could have. So you always want to do your reinforcements before you have something break on your blaster. So moving on, you can see the plunger right there is attached to the return spring, and the priming slide. Take the dart out of the barrel. Here's the muzzle. Set that aside. You can see I sealed the air release holes just with a piece of electrical tape. I used a big piece because I wanted it to stay in place. And this this plunger tube is very, very well greased. Now, originally, I'm going to set the camera down for this next part. There we go. Originally, I had Teflon taped under the O-ring very thickly with several layers, and it made it very hard for the breech tube or for the plunger tube to slide, and so I only have one layer of Teflon tape under there, and I was trying to do the Teflon tape and a thicker O-ring. I think I just went with the Teflon tape and the stock O-ring, and I greased it heavily. Additionally, the air restrictor has been fairly cleanly removed, so it's a nice straight shot through the blaster. And you can see the black padding down at the bottom. That is padding from Oz Nerf Nerd. He sells a handful of cool Nerf aftermarket parts, minor improvement things like springs, aluminum reinforcing brackets that are very well machined for bolt sled reinforcements in the long shot, and plunger tube padding for the long shot for end strike direct plungers and reverse plungers. I love his padding. It's purpose made. It served me very well, and it's just working out very well in this blaster. I'm very glad it's in there. And altogether, I think I've done a fairly good job of just improving all the functions of this blaster. Outwardly, it is stock in appearance, except for the start holder, and I'm just incredibly pleased with this mod. It is the first mod I completed, except for a handful of Mavericks that I came up with all the stuff on my own. I thought it was really, really well done. I was very pleased with the result. And so this is a very important blaster to me. And at some point I'll probably go through here, chop out this piece of this retaining wall so that if I happen to have darts in here while assembling or disassembling the blaster, I don't damage them anymore. I thought of filling in this wall that the spring rests against, but it's got this support brace here, and it's fairly sturdy, so that's not critical. But at some point, just because I overdo things, I may do that. Touch it up, do some, re-greasing, clean out some things, like I've got some plastic shavings here stuck in the grease. Maybe reinforce this even more, just because more reinforcement is better. And the only other thing I have to point out, if any of you want to reproduce these mods, is you see this piece here? That's supposed to be something you can sling or attach to a carabiner or belt loop on the blaster. To make this fit into this blaster, after I filled in this handle with hot glue, you'll see I had to Dremel out part of it right up here. And that's just so that when the shell goes together, it doesn't, let's see here, it doesn't get stuck on the hot glue in there, and it just sits together very nicely. So that's a tuning thing I had to do to make it work just right. I'm certain that's everything I've done to this blaster. I hope you got a kick out of this video. I will try not to do any more mod videos like this in the future because I like to show you as I'm going through how I do it step by step. But as usual, thank you very much for watching, and keep your stick on the ice.